Hi everyone, welcome to this video. Today is May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Star Wars Day. And I am filming a ton of videos because I felt like it. I felt in the mood to film some videos. I haven't filmed in months, but I thought it would be fun to give you guys a reading update, let you know what I've been reading. Hey, I have a pile here next to me with 16 books. 16 books that I've read since I think January. I think these started in February, sorry. So it's not many for 4 months, 3 months, yeah, because it's just May, 3 months. But I hit kind of a reading slump in April, so not much got read. But anyway, we're gonna get started with the video. So the first book I don't actually have a picture of, so I put a picture on the screen, but that book is Monk of Death by Catherine Graham. This is the second book in the Lord's Gambit series, completely spaced on it, the name then. I read this book as an ARC reader. Was it an ARC reader? Street team? ARC reader, yes. I ARC read and street teamed for this book. I loved it. I fell in love with it. It was so good. The story was great. The characters were great. I loved the hints and mentions of characters, places, and events that took place in Oracle of Life, which is book 1 of the series. I thought it was a really good way to tie it together, even though this series could be read as standalones. I would personally suggest reading it chronologically. I just think it's better that way. So I gave this book a 4-star rating. The second book I read is The Pagan Lord by Bernard Cornwell. It's this book here. This is book 7 in the Last Kingdom series. I gave this book a 3-star rating because I'd read 7 years worth of Uhtred in 3 months. I think I started the first one. I read the first one between the 3rd and the 23rd of December, and I read this on the 5th to the 20th of February. So, you know, it took a while to read, and by this point I was really ready for a break from Uhtred. So it took me a while to read, and I wasn't as invested in the story in this book. There was quite a lot of scenes where I was very, very bored, I just didn't enjoy it as much, so it got a very low rating, especially for Uhtred. I think the rest of the books I gave 4 to 5 star reviews. So yeah, this was not my favourite Uhtred book. I got the ARC copy of Rebelling with a Bad Boy by Sarah Sutton, book 3 in the Most Likely To series. I gave this a 5-star review. This is my favourite Sarah book I've ever read. It was amazing. I thought it was really good. It was really nice seeing, because books 1 and 2, Teaching the Teacher's Pet and Dreaming About the Boy Next Door, the 2 main characters, female main characters in those books are friends, and so you get wind of, you see those 2 characters making appearances, and there are little mentions of, in Maisie's book, Teaching the Teacher's Pet, you get little hints of what Ava, the main character of Dreaming About the Boy Next Door, is doing. And in Dreaming About the Boy Next Door, you get little snippets of stuff you've read in Teaching the Teacher's Pet. So that was great. But this one, however, Gemma, the main character, Gemma, she has nothing to do with Maisie and Ava's friend group. So it was very much it felt a little bit like a completely different school that it's set in. There was still snippets, you hear snippets about stuff that happened with Maisie and Ava, but for the majority of it, they're not in the book. So it very much felt like a completely different story, which was great. I loved Gemma, I love Hudson. Their story was amazing. It was so good. And it was really nice seeing, we got to see the female main character and male main character of the next book, which is called Fake Dating a Football Player, which was really cool. We got to know them a little bit, so I'm very excited about their book. After that, I actually did a reread of a classic book from my childhood that I'm throwing around the room. And that book is How to Train Your Dragon by Cressida Cowell. I read this book around the time that I got really intensely interested in the movies again. Like I was watching the first one all the time. It's my comfort movie. It came out when I was 5 and I just was like, you know what, I haven't read the books in a while. There are a couple of them in the series I haven't actually read at all. So let's reread it. Let's reread it. And I gave it 4 stars. 4.5, 4.5 I think it was. After How to Train Your Dragon, I did another reread. This was for a video that I actually have filmed and edited, just not uploaded. And I reread The Vow That Twisted Fate by Catherine Graham. This was Catherine's debut novel. It was how I met Catherine. She asked me to arc read for this. And as you can tell, you might be able to tell what the video is, but I reread this and had a go at annotating it. And I had so much fun doing that. It was so much fun, so much fun. The next book I read was the second How to Train Your Dragon book, which is How to Be a Pirate, also obviously by Cressida Cowell. This one I didn't enjoy as much as the first one. I gave it a 3-star rating. It's just a little bit more slower paced than the first one, I think. However, it feels like a lot more happens in this one, like a lot more of an adventure happens. I just didn't particularly enjoy it as much. The next 2 books are in one series, and that is The Inheritance Games and The Hawthorne Legacy. I gave The Inheritance Games, I read these over a weekend. I read The Inheritance Games first, obviously, and I gave it a, sorry, I have my phone down here with Goodreads open so I can see my ratings. I gave The Inheritance Games a 4-star review and The Hawthorne Legacy a 4-star review as well. I think out of the entire series, The Inheritance Games, the first one is my favourite. And to be honest, by the time I was finished this book, I was less interested in who Avery was going to end up with, and I was more interested in Libby and Nash's relationship. And I still am. I'm not Team Grayson, I'm not Team Jameson, I'm Team Libby and Nash. That's who, I'm Team Nash. That's what team I am. But Abby had read these, so I borrowed them from her and then bought them recently. But I borrowed them from Abby because she owned the first 2, and yeah, I really enjoyed them. I thought they were great, they were really fun. They were really fun to read, and they were not typically the genre I would usually go for. They were very, like, they've got, I think they're mystery. They feel more like mystery novels, which is not something I typically read. But I did enjoy that, and I had lots of fun reading along and trying to figure out what was going on. The next book I have is The Quarantine Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. This came out recently. It came out here, I think, March 19th. I love The Princess Diaries. I loved it growing up. And I got so excited when I found out this was going to be made into a book, that this book was coming out. So excited, couldn't wait, and it did not disappoint. It was so good. The next book that I have that I read is The Empty Throne by Bernard Cornwell. This is book 8. I took, as you can tell, I took a massive break. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books in between books 7 and 8, and it worked. It seriously worked. And that was right in, like, I read 7 books, but I also went through a massive reading slump where I just couldn't read anything. The Hawthorne Legacy, the first book, The Inheritance Games, book 1, took me, I think, 2 weeks to read 3 chapters. So it's a proper reading slump where I just couldn't pick anything up. Nothing interested me. And Like, I started listening to an audiobook and reading one of my TBR books, and just couldn't get into them. But it seriously worked, because I read this and fell in love with Uhtred again. It was so good, and it started off with like the classic first like massive paragraph that if you've read this series you should know what it is. Brilliant start to book 8. After that I read the Final Gambit, which is book 3 in the Inheritance Games series. I bought this from Waterstones just before we went away. I bought it the Tuesday before we went away on the Monday, and I read it like in 3 days, I think. I loved this book. It was great. The next book I have is Warriors of the Storm by Bernard Cornwell, book 9 in the Last Kingdom series. I read this in 2 days. I read this the Saturday, Sunday, the weekend before we went away on holiday, because I had a plan that I will explain in a minute. But I gave this 5-star review. I gave this 5 stars. It was brilliant. I loved it. Things began to ramp up for the ending. There's 13 books, so this was book 9. Things were starting to slowly ramp up for the final, like the final book, the big, like, you know, the big battle. There were some things in this that I wasn't happy with, minor things, but overall loved it. The next book I have is The Flamebearer by Bernard Cornwell, book 10 in the Last Kingdom series. This is on the much smaller side. Like, even compared to this, there is a difference. But I did enjoy this. I started this on the drive to our holiday, and I read, I think, over half the book in the car on the drive. I loved it. It was brilliant. There were things in this that, again, didn't like, that made me very sad. I did have some crying moments in this book, or maybe it was the next one. I can't remember, but overall, brilliant book, and again, 5-star. The next couple books were all 5 stars. And then I have War of the Wolf by Bernard Cornwell, book 11 in the Last Kingdom series. Again, stuff I liked, stuff I didn't like. It was great. I love Uhtred. It was brilliant. Then I had Sword of Kings by Bernard Cornwell, book 12 in the Last Kingdom series. This was a good one. Again, there was stuff in this one shocked me. There was stuff in this that I was not expecting to happen, and I was kind of like, whoa, that was very unexpected. I don't know how I feel about that. There were some great battles in this one, which was brilliant. And yeah, loved it. I loved it. And then the last book that I have on my recently read is Warlord by Bernard Cornwell, the final book in the Last Kingdom series. I loved this book. I read it in a day. And it put me in a reading slump. I just finished it on Sunday. It is now Thursday. I read it on the final day of April and it put me in a reading slump, so thank you, Bernard Cornwell. This was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I thought the ending of the series was amazing. I thought that the way Cornwell closed the series, closed the stories, closed Uhtred's story, was really well done and very unexpected. That's all I'm going to say, because I'm not going to spoil it. But we are now in talks of watching the show with my dad. I'm currently reading The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This is hilarious. I've laughed so many times and I'm only 2 chapters in. I've read 2 chapters in over 24 hours, but you know. But yes, I'm reading that. I need to finish this because my camera is flashing battery at me. But yes, that is what I've recently read. Thank you guys so much for watching. All of these will be linked in a pinned comment. And yes, I will see you guys next time.